everyone, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Today is Friday Fun with Sarah. Well, today I'm going to show you how to add a little bit of a collar to add a little pizzazz to your old t-shirts. You can take any color of t-shirt, add a fun collar, and it's dressed up and looks cute. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So for today's Friday Fun with Sarah, I'm going to show you how to stitch up a collar and add it to any t-shirt and dress up that t-shirt. And the neat thing about this is the way that the pattern is stitched up, it can be as long as needed for any type of t-shirt. You can see this one is a V-neck and this one is a round neck. And so it will work for any t-shirt that you have on hand. It can be a sweatshirt, a sweater, a tank top, a t-shirt, whatever you've got. It can even have a collar because this collar can slide underneath the other collar because it's not sewn on at all. We're just wearing it with our t-shirt. Now you can find the complete pattern for this collar down in those notes in the description box underneath this video. To make one of these fun and simple collars, you're of course going to need some sort of a t-shirt. You're going to need a tape measure because we're going to measure around the length of the collar of the t-shirt. You're going to need a button. You can use a button, you can use a pin, a brooch, a pearl, because we're just going to be sewing the center portion of our collar closed because we slip it over our head. You're going to need a needle and some scissors. We're going to be stitching today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook, and I'm going to use this yarn here. It's a medium weight number 4, just an off-white impeccable called Heather. And I wanted to just make one that has a little bit different look than the other two. Depending on the buttons and the yarn that you choose, gives you a different look. Now, you can use any weight of yarn that you have on hand because we're going to be measuring and adjusting the collar to fit the opening of our shirt. And so if you want to use a smaller or larger weight yarn, you can. Just make sure that you use the hook that goes with that yarn. My suggestion is to follow the size hook that the yarn says, but you'll notice I am not using a 5 millimeter, I'm using a 5.5 millimeter because I want mine to be just a little bit more open and lacy. And that's where the importance of having your tape measure comes in handy. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So the first thing you need to do is measure the neck opening where you're going to put your collar or wear your collar. So I'm going to begin up here on the seam. That way I can remember where I started. And we're just going to work around, laying it gently and loosely around the collar. And mine measures approximately 24 inches. So now that we know that we need 24 inches around the neck of our collar, we need to figure out how many stitches we need to make. We're going to be stitching foundation double crochets. 3 foundation double crochets equal 1 inch. So we need 24 inches, so we're going to multiply 24 times 3. So 3 times 24 equals 72. In order to reach the amount that we need to do what's called a multiple. And this way the pattern works out as well. And the multiples for the collar are 4 plus 1. That means we need to stitch foundation double crochets in multiples of 4 and then add 1 at the end. Now, if the math was a little bit too tricky for you, I have it all written out underneath in the notes in that description box. The bottom line for this is we want to make a 24-inch collar, so we're going to stitch 72 plus one more foundation double crochets for our collar. So just to be clear, to stitch a 24-inch collar for our t-shirt, we're going to stitch 73 foundation double crochets. And to stitch a foundation double crochet, we begin with a slip knot. We chain 4, yarn over, go in the 4th chain from the hook, and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and only go through that first loop. That's the chain that we just made. Now we're going to finish off our double crochet. Yarn over, go through the next 2 loops, yarn over, and go through the last 2 loops. Yarn over, we'll go in that chain that we made and pull up a loop. Yarn over, only go through the first loop. Yarn over, go through the next 2, yarn over, and go through the next 2. Now remember to count your chain 3 as your first stitch, and so we have 3 foundation double crochets. And we will continue to stitch foundation double crochets until we have a total of 73 stitches. I have stitched my 73 foundation double crochets. Now, if you don't like doing the foundation double crochet, you can do a row of chains and then make sure you have 73 double crochets. The reason I like to use the foundation double crochet on a collar is because when you're putting around the edge of a t-shirt, it gives you a little bit of stretch so that it fits nicely. And you'll also notice that I marked my row every 10 stitches with a stitch marker, and then there's my last 3 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those out. It's just a way to keep track of your stitches, because you know my theory, or my motto I should say, is to work smarter, not harder. And when we work smarter, we enjoy the process better. All right, so now we have 73 foundation double crochets. Remember to count that chain 3 here that we began with as well as part of your 73. All right, now we're going to do row 2. We're going to chain 4 and turn, and then we're going to double crochet in the first stitch. A lot of times our chain 4 or chain 3 will count as the first stitch and will begin in the second stitch. For this project, we're going to go right in this first stitch. This chain 4 counted as a double crochet, chain 1, and then we stitched a double crochet right in that first stitch. So we stitched up a V-stitch. Now we're going to chain 4. We're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and stitch a V-stitch in the next stitch. And our V-stitch again is a double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch. So we stitched a V-stitch in that stitch. We're going to chain 4. We're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and stitch a V-stitch in the next stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in that same stitch. And repeat. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 3, and V-stitch in the next stitch. double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet. And at this point, you'll notice that your collar will sort of fan out a little bit. And that's exactly what we want it to do. So we're going to continue across with this repeat of chain 4, skip 3, and V-stitch in the next, which is again double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet in the same stitch. And again, we're just going to repeat this across this row. I continued repeating V-stitch, chain 4, skip 3, V-stitch in the next, all the way across. Here's the end of our row. V-stitch, chain 4, we're going to skip 3, and then place a V-stitch in that last stitch. And we're going to chain 4. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 V-stitches on your collar. All right, so we're going to turn our work. We've chained 4. We're going to double crochet in this chain 1 space. That makes our first V-stitch. We're going to chain 4 and then V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the next V-stitch. Chain 4. V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the next V-stitch. Chain 4. And repeat. V-stitch in the next chain 1 space of the next V-stitch. And see how that looks? And we'll repeat this working all the way across this row. Chain 4, V-stitch in the chain 1 space of the next V-stitch. And repeat all the way across this row. I completed this row as well, row 3. Here's my last chain 4. We're going to go in this last chain 1 space and stitch our V-stitch. And again, you're going to have 19 V-stitches, and we're going to chain 7. All right. And this gives you a little bit better idea of how that's going to look. Here's our main edge, and then 2 rows of those V-stitches with the chain 4s in between. The 4th row is our finishing row, where we have those nice little picot stitches that make the nice little points. But one thing I do want to tell you is if you want your collar to be longer, you can repeat row 3 a couple more times, or as many times as you want to, for a longer collar. So we've chained our chain 7. We're going to slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, then pull that loop through the loop on our hook and chain 4. And see what that does? That gives us that little point. Now we're going to move over here and single crochet in the chain 1 space. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. All right, we'll chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, we'll slip stitch in the 4th chain and chain 4. And move over here and single crochet in the chain 1 space. And so those picot stitches gives us those nice little points on the bottom edge of our collar. Chain 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Slip stitch in the 4th chain, 1, 2, 3, 4. And chain 4. Single crochet in the next chain 1 space. And that's our repeat across. And we'll continue this all the way across that bottom edge of our collar. So I stitched that fun little picot stitch with the chains all the way around the edge. It's so pretty. All right, so here's my last chain 4, and I'm going to single crochet in that last chain 1 space, cut my yarn, and tie off. And we'll just go ahead and take our needle and weave that end in. There we go, right to the back. We'll take a moment and weave this in, and we'll weave this in as well. So the collar is all tidied up, the ends are all weaved in, and it's really super pretty in this off-white. Now this is the button that I have chosen, add a little pizzazz to it. And what we're going to do is take about a 10 or 12 inch piece of yarn and thread it onto our needle. We're going to take the two and put them together. Now, we want to overlap just a little bit. When you wear it, it will sort of pull out. All right, so we're going to overlap this first. We're going to go from behind, leave a piece of yarn, and we're going to go through a couple of stitches and just stitch that together. That way we know that's not going to come undone. All right, then I'm going to go across I'm going to take my button and stitch it on. And when we're stitching, we're going to go right through some of those stitches, if possible, because we want that button to stay put. And we'll do that a few times, and then we'll go to the back and tie that securely. Cut that because I want to do that little knot that I like to do. I think it just gives it a really good hold. There we go. And there's our fun collar. So here is our finished collar laid out on our bright hot pink. This is really a really bright pink. It looks red. Whether it's red or pink, it looks really nice with this off-white kind of a crew collar. And I added that fun leopard button, and it made it a little bit more fun. But you can add whatever buttons, whatever brooches, whatever you want to do, and wear it with whatever t-shirt, and you're going to have a nice and fun and sometimes even playful look. How about this classic collar? Isn't that beautiful with that white button? And look how it dresses up this lavender top. Or this one that's a fun classical look with the leopard button. Isn't that adorable? And it looks beautiful up against this bright pink shirt. So whether you're going for the classical look, the fun look, or maybe the elegant look like this one, this is a cranberry sparkle yarn with a gold pin instead of a button. There's lots of opportunities, lots of colors of shirts, lots of colors of yarn, and lots of wonderful fun buttons. It's a super fun way to dress up any shirt or t-shirt. sweatshirt, sweater, or you just want to add a little extra touch. Well, that's all I've got for you today on Friday Fun Day. It's been fun, and I can't wait for next Friday, and I'll see you there. Bye-bye now.